All right. Welcome to another episode this week. This week I have Michael LaVista. He's the founder and CEO of Caxy. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
That's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Um, Before we get jumping into the questions, can you tell folks just a little bit more about Caxy and kind of your background?
Yeah, sure. So Caxy primarily is a software and AI consulting company. So we'll get into this more, but we work on helping companies figure out their back office problems and efficiencies, and usually do that through the lens of how they use their technology and potentially building new solutions there. So I'm the founder. I started out 25 years ago, and started as our original developer. So my background's in development. Had a couple of partners who focused on other parts of the business, and maybe we'll get into how they found other things to do later on. But that's kind of the brief history of Caxy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to start there just with maybe how it was founded, but also kind of some of the key milestones along the way, kind of that bring
Yeah.
you to today.
Sure. So, the company was founded in kind of a backwards, not terribly strategic, intelligent way to do it. I was my first career. I was actually in music. I was in a cover band for a long time, and did that for 5 years or so, and started to think about like, oh, I don't know, can I do this when I'm 60? I kind of need what else could I do? And so a couple of friends from high school had an idea that is now so insanely dated. We made custom die cut CD-ROMs, which is a thing you probably have to go look up what a CD-ROM is. And so we did that for a couple of years, but really started the business just because it was something different. It was something else to do that looked like I could have a little bit longer run in than music. And we've pivoted and changed what we did, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times since then. But it was, I think a lot of people get into like services, get an agency work because they think they can do a thing. And I thought I could do a thing and help people that way. And I think where kind of skipping ahead to other ideas here, where we got to where we actually kind of grew the company a lot more significantly was thinking about the problems we solve. And I think if there's a problem that most agency owners run into, it's that they know how to do marketing, they know how to do brand, they know how to do these things, right? And so they talk about, hey, do you need a marketing campaign? Do you need, whatever these services are, as opposed to like, well, like what's the problem in the business, and it sounds kind of maybe it's kind of a silly thing to focus down on, but it really changed how we looked at the deals we were doing. And so it became a lot easier where we look at something and say, you came to us asking for an app, and we do make apps. And so here's the cost for the app. And it was, oh, that's too much. But if we changed it around, like, well, what's the thing you're trying to solve for? And if it's not, like, here's a $10 million problem, and like, wow, I have great news for you. You can solve that $10 million problem for only $1 million, which I think most people, if it was true, if it was that was a real thing, that was a real solution, then most people would take that deal every day of the week. Conversely, if you want an app and your problem is like, well, Fred over in the office here has to copy and paste some stuff every day, and we'd like to automate that. And well, okay, that costs you $1 million. Well, I mean, that's crazy. That's insane. Why would you charge that much? So really, like, identifying the cost of the problem became, I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to say it took me probably, I don't know, 12 or 15 of those 25 years to figure that out. And I think the first half of the company was me just kind of asking people if they wanted the service. Now, it was really unproductive.
Yeah, it's the whole if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like, well, you can't just go out there and be like, I have a hammer, I'm in the hammering business.
Yeah.
Who wants to pay me money?
Yeah.
It's like you got to find the people who have the hardest problem to solve, that need a hammer to solve it. And then you can say, oh, I'm in the business of solving this particular problem. It happens to be with a hammer.
Yeah.
But you can make a lot more money.
No, totally.
That
And
way.
honestly, it even worse, because I was in the hammer business for a long time. Even worse, because you're out there offering a thing. What people are the interactions you're having are transactions. It's like, oh, I want a thing for a cost, and here's my price. Can you sharpen your pencil? I got another quote that's less, and now you're in that game, and it's a terrible game to be in.
Absolutely. You got to start with the market and the value you can provide, and kind of work backwards and be like, oh, can I do this for 1/10 of the price? Well, then I probably have a compelling offer now that I can take to the world.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, you've evolved, you've grown the agency over the years. are there any specific sort of marketing or growth strategies that you felt have really paid off to kind of bring you where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important lessons that, and again, I only do lessons where I fail at them 10 times in a row before I finally learn it. So here's one it took me a really long time to learn that maybe people can learn from and do quicker. And the idea is that I think as a founder specifically, you're really concerned about like, let's make this whole enterprise work. And so I think that leads to a bias toward looking for new clients. And so I think a lot of people probably, if they look at their calendar, if they look at where they spend their time, they spend most of their time looking for new business. And because that's fun and it even kind of feels like it's right. It feels like what you should do. But then you look at your, you look at your QuickBooks, whatever, and you find that 87% of your revenue is from current clients who know who you are, who will answer your call, who probably like and respect you and are looking for ideas and have demonstrated the ability and willingness to pay you in the past and will do so again in the future. And so the, um, creating like an account function in the company to really focus on, okay, well, what are we doing for current clients? What do other clients need to know about that the other half of the clients are doing that they should know about? I have found here's my little hack I'll give everybody. This conversation has just about 100% close rate in my business, and it goes like this: we're doing an account review. I try to do this quarterly, and I say, hey, listen, and these are all true statements. Team that knows and loves working with you, they love your brand, they understand what we're doing, they understand all the systems that we built for you. I just want to let you know I'm investing in my business and we're growing our team. And I just want to know, if I were to have an extra 1 or 2 or 3 people worth of bandwidth available, would you want them or should I put them on other client projects? And those are all true statements and true intentions. I do want to offer to them first. And the answer, I mean, it can't be 100, but I bet it's over 80% where people are like, actually, you know what? Now that you mention it, there's this other thing we'd love to have you guys work on. And what I tell our team is like the business model is do great with current clients, and they will continue to work with us, find other things for us to do, and refer us to other customers. And so that little conversation snippet. And it works makes it sound like, that I'm trying to game or be disingenuous with clients, but like it is extremely effective and it's a true thing that most people will probably relate to. That's how we've grown, more than half the growth in the last 5 years has been from that. I think that's one hack.
Yeah, I think that's a super important thing too. I mean, I think a lot of times when you hear the term growth, you think, oh, that just means what's your customer acquisition strategy or something.
Yeah.
But really it's a whole concert of things because it's retaining your clients, make
Yeah.
sure they have a good experience. And customer acquisition is part of that, but it's not the main
Yeah, it's not
driver.
all of it. And I
Doesn't
think
have,
again, it's a blend. And I don't want to by any means say don't look for new clients, but I think don't look for them at the expense of current clients. And what I would
yeah,
say is, as a rule of thumb that I do is when I think about like my process and how I go through, things I want to do in a given month, I always prioritize, let's make sure for sure we complete all the current client attention account work first. And that's your cookie. That's how you get to go do the rest of it. But if you neglect that for the other, because honestly, it's easy, at least for me, it's been easy to be like, oh, I got this new thing I want to try. I want to call all these people. I want to do this marketing campaign. I'm doing podcasts and then forget that, oh wait, the people that pay the bills, that's who's actually most important to me. And so I want to make sure that they know that and I actually spend time with them.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you wish knowing what you know now, you would have wanted to do sooner in the growth of your agency that you maybe think maybe would have affected things positively earlier on?
So I'll give you a bunch of things kind of come to mind. I'll throw these out. I don't know if this is an order of importance, but these are sort of like my top list. I think one of them is I did not believe in the effectiveness of like personality assessment, like DISC and all those kind of assessment tools. I don't think I believed in them early on in my career. And believed in, what I mean by that is I would take one and I go, that's kind of me, but it's not really me. And then as I took more of them, I'm like, well, maybe it's a little bit me. And then I took another one. Okay, it's kind of me. And then you kind of relent. Okay, okay, it's mostly me. I get it. And so I think that what we figured out, and we use some tools from Intermetrics, if anyone wants to try them out, that are DISC plus some other things that do some things around like your attitudes toward kind of certain ideas and concepts in the business, your aptitude for certain things, your proclivity to be interested in certain kinds of things. And when we map our entire team to those tools, what we see emerge are things like, oh, our archetypal great, for example, project manager has these kinds of scores. Oh, and that makes sense. And our archetypal, developer has these kinds of scores. Our archetypal lead developer has these other kinds of things, looking for them. And so, and as everyone who's ever taken one of those knows, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just more about like, what are you going to get out of it? And so I feel like we brought those in, I want to say 7-8 years ago, and we're able to validate what people probably experience as a gut reaction to like, I don't know if this person is kind of on the fence for me. I don't know why, but I think I'm a no. And conversely, I don't know. I can't explain it, but like this person is a definite hit here. And I think as you grow, when you've got, 5 or 6 or 10 people, whatever, it's, maybe that's manageable. As you grow, you want to have more of a system, and frankly, to be compliant with various kind of hiring laws and all these kind of things, have like a real process and what you're really looking for and what works. And I think we've seen there's some things that are sort of like hard no's for us in the kind of work we do, and when we see that, we know that's a hard no, and there's a reason for it, as opposed to I feel like I can make this work. So I feel like in hiring, it's probably the case for anyone listening that like if you've ever had kind of a queasy something about someone when you first hired them, turned out you were right, and then you probably kept them too long, and they created some problems that you wish they had, and you wish you'd never done it, right? So I feel like some tools are really helpful to do that. So that's one is using those tools sooner. And we also do it for developer tasks, and I feel like the developer kind of code tests have fallen out of favor with developers. It's like, oh, that's stupid, doesn't mean anything. It turns out it means actually kind of a lot for our business. It just kind of shows you, generally speaking, know what you're doing, and that's not true for everyone's business. I don't know if it's true for I don't like. I'm not a brand guy, so I don't know what the test would be for a brand agency, but maybe you can figure out something. But figuring that out has been really helpful. Another one is that transition I mentioned from flipping to both the sales team, but the company at large, thinking about what are the problems we solve first. That's what we lead with. Has resulted in tripling the company in the last 4 years. And
wow.
it's really what I saw was we left the transactional market. It meant we were primarily competing against a couple of really tough foes, but the foes are, we're not going to do it at all, or we're going to do it internally, which are to me still better than we're dog and ponying against 3 other vendors, and we're doing a price thing and all that. So I feel like we got to a place where like we're really talking about like this is clearly worth it, and either you don't have the money to do it, or now's not the time, or you're investing in something else, or you're deciding you're going to try it on your own, whatever. But at least we got to a place where we identified the right problem. And honestly, this sounds like one of those kind of business tales, but it has been true for us, where when someone says no to us for the right reason, they always come back to us later because they remember us as the company, like, oh, we can trust them to come up with the right thing and not try to just sell us something. And so I think that if you can find, you can really find like the problem you're working on, well, what's the outcome? And I think your audience might have more kind of like marketing and other sort of services like that, where I've worked with a lot of marketers who aren't really serious about the numbers, and I think it bites them in the end. So like someone is like, we're here to work on X, whether it's ultimately it's going to be conversions of this, or the kind of details of the funnel, or sales, or whatever it is, something like really real, as opposed to more visits, or the real kind of soft metrics. I really feel like we're all here to solve our problem, because honestly, I don't know if anyone's experienced this, that when they say we want like more visits, for example, you might think 1 million is great, but they were thinking 2 million. And so you get 1.2 million and you're like, holy cow, we did it. And then they don't believe you. And also maybe you talked about it. I found that the willingness to move a goalpost by a client when it's been kind of a squishy metric is pretty strong if it's not like a real hard number. So I feel like those two things together, like internally measuring who our team was with tests, has been really effective and helped us hire faster and better. And then on the sales and growth side, our ability to really focus on outcomes has made it so that our deal size, Like here, I'll throw this out there. It used to be when I didn't know what the deal was, I put in 100,000. Now when I don't know what the deal is, I put in 500,000. And my goal is to start putting in 1 million. And because it just starts to think about, like, if I can find a solution worth paying $1 million for, then probably it has a $5 or $10 million outcome. And those are the problems I want to solve. I don't want to solve, I want to solve a $10,000 problem for $50,000 because now we're back in the hammer business.
Yeah. When you think about finding these problems, is there a specific strategy that you use, or has it been something that's evolved kind of naturally? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'll just spill the beans on our sales process, sort of a really high level. I think so. I have this idea in my head that, and people think about their own business right now, and I say, what's I'm here. I'm getting to the punchline too fast. I'll get there in a second. So here's what we do: find out as much as you can about what's happening right now. Numbers, sales, where are you at? How many, what do you measure? How do you measure it? Gather all the numbers. How big's the business? what are the margins? What's the EBITDA? All that kind of stuff. Really, like, get a bunch of numbers. And then hopefully you're talking with someone for whom this matters, and CEO, owner, where are you trying to get to in, say, 3 years? Because a year is too short, and 5 is, at this point in the world, is like, who knows? We could have flying cars and lasers in 5 years. We don't know. But 3 years seems pretty okay. What are you trying to get to in 3 years? And same thing, numbers, etc. And so if you hear a growth number, we want to go from 100 million to 200 million. Okay, put that in the back of your mind. And then you find out, well, great. So when, as you see it, like, what's getting in the way from going to 100 to 200 million? And they're going to tell you the things that are probably getting in the way from their point of view. And then you hear, like, well, what have you tried to do so far? And what you're going to hear is a bunch of things they tried that probably didn't work. And so you're going to start. So you've created contrast with this gap of how far you want to go. You want to dig into, like, well, so what, from 100 to 200 million, you say your problem is, like, whatever our system, here's a real example from one of our clients. Right now, our system is built to handle one warehouse. And we realize that, like, we can't add a second warehouse, and further, we can't split inventory between those 2 warehouses. We can't ship between the 2, and further, we don't want 2. We want 10 across the country. It's just not going to work. And, like, that sounds like a problem. Like, so what happens now if you don't get to your 200 million? Well, then, my dreams of getting there are smashed. I can't sell the company like I wanted to, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, that sounds like a real problem. Is that, like, is it $100 million problem? Maybe it's only 50 million, Well, if we could fix that for, I'm making up a number, $1 or $5 billion, like, would that be worth talking about? Like, seeing if that's worth it. So now you let them take you to it's like the horse and water thing. You let them take it to where the problem is. And honestly, and as an inquisitive person who knows through your lens,
Right.
but that sounds like a systems problem that's holding back $100 million of growth for you. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we work on. I mean, is that worth finding out more about if there's a way to do that? Now we're into the right thing, as opposed to, I think, what I would have used to say is, like, I would have gone in and been like, everyone's doing mobile apps now. Do you want a mobile app? I mean, not really. I don't, like, sure, you don't want a mobile app because they're really cool. And now we're just missing. We're not even connecting. So
Right.
it's really about finding that problem. I think that's how we do it. That's my little secret sauce.
Yeah. Kind of more a consultative sell. You're asking a lot of questions,
Mhm.
really trying to understand them first before you're trying to
Yeah,
talk about yourself in the
yeah,
conversation.
yeah. I think as soon as you start talking about what you do, it's starting to be over. Like,
Mm.
if you haven't gotten to a place where you're like, we've identified the problem first, then now you're just pitching.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's a good sort of, I like how you kind of summed it up with an example.
Yeah,
I just think that makes it that much more tangible. Well, you
yeah,
mentioned in there about talking with them, asking things that what's working, what's not working.
yeah.
Is in your own sort of growth journey with your agency. Are there things that you tried that you feel like this was a trend, or this was something that, like, everyone was saying you should do, and it totally didn't work for us? Meanwhile, this other thing
Yeah.
really worked well for us.
So honestly, so here, this is so I feel like machine learning AI started to get hot. I'm going to make up a number, 7 or 8 years ago. Maybe it's, correct me one way or the other. And at that
Mhm.
time, we started walking around going, "Oh, this is the future. Let's just tell people we do machine learning, right?" And so you go to a client, "Hey, we do machine learning. Do you want some?" And they're like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And I think so. I got really frustrated. Like, why is no one buying this, right? And now fast forward to LLMs being really, really hot and kind of sucking the air out of all other artificial intelligence. So it's not the whole world, but it's what most people think of it as right now. All of a sudden, it's quote unquote much easier for us to sell, but it's not because of the product or the technology. It's because we changed how we think about it. So I feel like I've tried a lot of things for growth. I feel like I've tried, if there's a tactic, we've tried it. So we've hired outside cold callers, inside cold callers, emails. We send lumpy things in the mail. And by lumpy, I mean like it's, like a Lego or a thing, or not just a letter. And we do emails, all that kind of stuff. Really like every channel, all the time, everywhere. And I think what we have only gotten recently a little bit smarter about is, it turns out, lo and behold, that the message is actually the thing that matters. And I'm going to hammer this thing all the time. I say hammer a lot today, but that, we spent a lot of time telling people what we did for a long, long time and wondering why no one was answering. No one was listening to us. And it's because no one, this is something I feel like I have to tell our own marketers a lot, is that nobody cares about us. Like they're forgive me, but like whenever I see a post on LinkedIn that like, so-and-so company, hired this new amazing person, or we do this new amazing thing, nobody cares. And I think if you take a nobody cares, or it's more like what's in it for them, that whole thing, like unless you can tap into like what actually matters to your customer. And I feel like for people to become truly, truly expert in the agency space, it's really about, if you can really, really get to know your target customers' needs and problems that you're in a service business, and that's just kind of a game changer. And if I sidebar on that, I feel like if we have a trouble with a new person at the company, sometimes the problem turns out to be that they didn't fully realize that they're in a service business. Like we're closer to being like a clerk at a bakery than we are a developer at Google, because what we do is we listen to what a customer says and we try to listen and think that through and make the thing the best we can and give them the best croissant that we can make. And sometimes they don't like it, we remake it. It's that mindset and it's kind of, I think it's a really rewarding thing to do and mindset to have. But it's not for everybody. So I don't know, I feel like I rambled off on a side tangent there, but
I think that's great. I mean, I like what you said, and I was going to add, it's like we're in the hospitality business, or the hospitality industry.
Just, that's better.
With
that's
a different
better.
type of business,
Yeah. Hospitality is better than bakery. I'm going to take that instead, because you're right. You're providing an experience. Honestly, when you think about at the end of a project, I mean, we've all felt this. Some projects go great, and then that's it. And some projects go okay and they do more work. And usually the ones that go okay and you do more work, or even better, they go great and they do more work, is because you provide an experience along the way that's like, God, these guys are experts. It feels like they're in this with me. I feel like I can trust and like these people. And like, I would do this again. I would sign up for this summer camp again, because this is a good experience and we got a good outcome. And I don't think people design their own customer experience particularly well. It's something we're working on too. I'm not saying ours is great, but I feel like that has such an unsung value.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just basically putting yourself in your clients, your best fit clients' shoes, and then being like, okay, how can we optimize this so that like it feels very white glove from beginning to end?
Yeah. Here, I'll make a confession. One of the things that I think I figured out recently was our invoices. If I got one of our invoices, I would lose my mind. And because our invoice doesn't tell you like all the stuff I just said, right? It feels like I'm the high Templar of like talking about value. And our invoices are basically a laundry list of the category of work that we have done and how many hours you were billed for it. And so if I saw a bill for, scrum ceremonies for 42.5 hours and, development for 612 hours, they're like, what did I even get? Like, what are we talking about? Right. It should say, these 9 features, this amount of time, whatever it is, but like it should correlate to value. And so that I'm just thinking like there are a number of points along that customer experience journey where you can optimize, and it's everything from what your emails, to what your welcome kind of process is, to, what daily emails look like, to, wrap up. Do you do a dinner together? Like there's really think about like what would an awesome customer experience, or what awesome customer experience have you had that you would mimic or steal from, that's kind of what I think a lot about that now.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing for more agencies to think about, is just how do you, like, even if you already deliver a good experience, like how can you always be trying to level it up, um, you
Yeah.
know, further than where you have before.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure, as you've grown your agency, there's been different things that people, maybe misconceptions or myths that you've, you didn't know there were misconceptions or myth at the time, but you've come to kind of realize, oh, you know what, like this thing isn't actually not true, that a lot of people say is true. Um, like based on your experience, what do you feel like some of those things are?
All right. So if I think about small service businesses, I think there is a belief, both from the business and from probably the client side. There's a belief that uh, big companies like to buy from big companies, and that as much as you think to yourself, we could compete with Accenture, or name a big company, whatever. In your heart of hearts, do you believe it? And I think the reality is that, especially with new technologies and new kind of advancements in whatever your field is, you're going to be just as good or better at those things than the big companies are. And it's like, so you hear about those famous hysterical job ads where it's like, we're looking for a developer with 10 years experience in this technology, which turns out to have only been released 3 years ago, like these impossible things, whatever.
Yeah.
Like anyone who's an expert like in LLMs right now has about as much experience as anybody else. I wouldn't want to go toe to toe with IBM's COBOL experience, because they've been doing it since 1965 and we haven't. So fine, that's not the one we're going to compete on.
Yeah.
But really like believing that you can compete at that level. And frankly, I think if I were to make an AI LLM type prediction about like where what's going to change in the business landscape, I think businesses are going to be able to tackle really long tail business ideas that used to be too expensive to work on. And further, smaller agencies are going to be better suited to do with and for them. So I feel like that's an opportunity for, like, if
Mm.
Target thought it could never sell, just swing and miss on this. So there's some really niche market. It'll just be too cumbersome for them to deal with, but they have the resources if they wanted to. A small agency could come in and be like, oh, you know what? We're going to help you capture this market in North America, because we can do it with AI and leverage some things that maybe we couldn't, or you couldn't before, but now it's actually doable. I think
Yeah.
there's some opportunities there. Then I can't think of one because they're undiscovered, but bookmark this and come back in a year and see what weird things people came up with that seemed like I could never have done that before.
Yeah.
So I
No,
think that, yeah.
I 100% agree. I think you said it way better than I could have, but I like that, kind of the long tail problems. Um, it's like there's all these sort of more nuanced, complex things that there's a lot of, but just people haven't tried to solve for them en masse. But this allow a lot more people to dig into those at like without the burden that used to be there
Yeah.
from entering into that. That's great. Well, this has been super interesting, super fun chatting. A lot of gems here. For folks that want to learn more about Caxy, who want to just maybe talk shop with you, learn more about kind of your experience and the learnings you've had over the years, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
I think so. I was on a show recently, and one of my friends said, you gave them 8 different ways to contact you. How do they pick? Let me give you one. So I think the best way to get in touch with me is just from our company website at caxy.com, so caxy.com, and that'll lead you to all the different other kinds of things like my podcast and other things. But like that's the best way to find and get in touch if you want to chat and talk shop and etc. And happy to talk to agency people about breakthroughs and where you got stuck and all that kind of stuff. Even if it's just to spend some time, bitching and moaning about what's happening in the world, that's fine.
Yeah, or where AI is taking
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
That's a super interesting conversation. I feel like I'm having with everyone these days.
It's hard, and it's funny. It's okay. Here's the misconception. I'll give you a second one. I've had a couple of conversations with clients in the last couple of days that I had to sort of like redirect. And it goes something like this. We want, yeah, and this is probably because I did something wrong about setting up the problem, but we got to a place where like, yeah, we're getting an intern for the summer, and we're going to have that person do AI for us. I'm like, huh. And in my head, I'm like, how do I unwind this? Because it's like, okay, really big opportunity, really big problem, put least experienced new person, lowest paid person in the company on it. That's sort of like a
Mm.
really strange dichotomy. And I feel like I think companies may be missing how important it is. So if instead we said, hey, listen, you guys need to work on this existential problem for the business that could put you out of business in 3 years, I think you'd put someone besides the intern on it. But I think
Yeah.
businesses haven't yet figured out that like, no, really, like this is coming to eat everyone's lunch in some way. We just really, truly don't know how yet. Um, but like figuring that out sooner rather than later is going to be really important. I don't think people, as strange as it sounds, aren't taking it seriously enough. And I think
Yeah.
that's an opportunity for people like us who are on the other side of it thinking about it. Cause like, no, 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 this is like a big deal. You need like, let's put someone who knows business and has been through this and bought and sold companies and all this kind of stuff. That's who you want working on. It's not a kid who's going to, not to be, it's not an age thing. It's just an experience and having seen some stuff thing.
Yeah. Well, and like you said earlier, there's a lot of opportunity to be getting in there and dabbling in it now,
Yeah.
because it's not like there's somebody out there with 10 years experience,
Right.
it's like you can be caught up with some of the leaders in the space in a very,
Mhm.
fairly short amount of time at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. This has been super fun. And yeah, I'd love to stay in touch and hopefully send people your way.
That'd be absolutely great. A pleasure being with you. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you.